Another edition of Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buck What You Heard. You follow me and I'll follow you back. And I'm joined by my special guest, Alison. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, good, Eugene. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm just glad to have you on. Allison you work with Bucs Report. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and I moved to Tampa just over a year ago from Detroit. And I'm loving it here, and I'm kind of taking it all in. And I've been a writer for quite some time, and started out writing sports articles for the Sports Haven a few years ago, and took a little break from that while I was moving down here, and now I'm writing for Bucs Report, and it's really sweet.
Yeah, there we go. So that's, these are the kind of things that I like. I mean, you're coming in with fresh eyes on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we'll just jump right into this. You've been to a few camps already. So how are things going? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, first of all, like it's I've been to football camps before, training camps, mainly Detroit Lions. I was there as a reporter for Wayne State University's newspaper called the South End. But I was just there to interview players, so I wasn't there to really get an overall view or report on an overall view for training camp. So this is really, we've had 3 credentials, thankfully, for the Bucs Report. And so it's really been a very eye-opening experience. It's pretty overwhelming because I consider myself a Bucs rookie myself, because I didn't really follow the Bucs until I started working for Bucs Report. So it's a pretty amazing experience, kind of trying to get to know players and player numbers, and everybody's moving so fast, and some of the players they roll up their jerseys so you can't see their numbers. Like, oh, what number is that? And sometimes if you look on their pads, if you get a right look at their pads on their pants, they have their numbers there. So it's been a little overwhelming and a little nerve-wracking, but it's been a great experience. I mean, the fans are awesome. You know what I mean? They're all in the stands, Bucs Nation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or you get the Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay cheer is the big one.
Right,
Tampa
Bay, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool experience, and I'm really enjoying how every kind of head coach, they run their camps differently. So it's been interesting to see kind of how BA is running things here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, most definitely. So, you had mentioned that you had interviewed players for the Lions. You've been to some camps with the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
How do you compare what you've seen with Detroit versus the fan base here, and how they get with camp, and can you compare that?
Right, yeah, it's kind of like comparing oranges to bananas. I wouldn't even say apples to oranges, because they're a little bit more similar than bananas and oranges, because it's I think maybe next year it'll be a little bit different, because at Lions camp I was there when the regime was the same for a while, and with Jim Caldwell, and then but now with Tampa Bay, they have a new regime, and things are maybe a little bit more hectic. And they may just be kind of, I don't want to say that they're flying by the seat of their pants, because there's definitely some organization there. You've got to have organization in the training camp, and certainly Bruce Arians knows what he's doing. But I just think because of the newness of everything, everybody's kind of learning at the same time, So I would say it seems a little bit more hectic than Lions training camp was. It seemed a little bit more calm and a little bit more reserved. But again, that could just be the difference in camps, the difference in organizations altogether. So like I said, right now I haven't seen any similarities yet between Lions training camp and Buccaneers training camp.
Yeah, it's a little bit hotter.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. Climate is definitely different, although they do have it. In the summer in Detroit, it does get pretty warm. But
I want to give you props, because you're out there in that blazing heat with that blazing humidity, and you're covering this team. So that's something I'm super excited about. To kind of get your thoughts on what you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've been credentialed by the Buccaneers, which is really awesome, where you can kind of get to interview certain players. And I know that you are writing some articles, and hopefully, towards the end of the show, we can talk about who you're writing for. Maybe people can follow you a little bit more, because I think you do a great job. You can find Allison's work on Bucs Report. I don't know if you're on Facebook, or if you're following on Facebook. If you're not on Bucs Report, be sure to check them out. There's some really good content. The one thing I will say about Tampa is we have a lot of podcasters, and there's a lot of good content out here. For a team that hasn't really been as exciting, or I want to say they haven't been as good as they should have been. We have a really great fan base here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's funny because, like I said, I was born and raised in Cleveland, and I mean, Bucs Nation is awesome, but the fans of the Cleveland Browns,
the Dogs, and they've been through so much,
so much, and I was there when Modell sold the team, and a lot of people did jump ship and actually became Steelers fans, which was pretty surprising. But the majority of them stuck around. They were like, "Oh, football sucks." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the period of time they were gone, and then when they came back, I mean, they were just stoked. And now that they're finally, they seem to be turning things around there.
Well, let me ask you this. I do have one question, just kind of, and this is not Bucs related, but it's just football related, more or less. When the Ravens won the Super Bowl, how did Cleveland fans really feel about that? I mean, I know they wished death on the owner and everything, but I mean, how much of a heartbreaker was it to see the Baltimore Ravens go in there and win a Super Bowl, with a team that is, pretty much was organically grown in Cleveland.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why obviously a lot of Browns fans were upset because, of the move and everything, but it essentially was, so close, timing wise, you know what I mean? A lot of the Browns fans thought, well, that's, Baltimore Ravens, they won the Super Bowl with the Browns. with the Browns. You know what I mean? Because there were a lot of Browns players that were still left over there. And so I think that they were a little salty, you know what I mean? But for good reason. I can't.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would have been too. I mean, just when you consider that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, no, that was one of my questions. Just, I know that you still have friends and family in that area?
I do, yes. Yeah, in fact, the majority of my friends are still up there, so.
Well, that is awesome. It's going to be an interesting preseason game, the Cleveland Browns and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll definitely have to get you on again so we can kind of get the vibe from that area there.
Yeah, I dig that for sure, man.
All right. So I wanted to kind of touch on camp a little bit, and let's start. I wanted to start from the offensive side, and we'll work to defense, because defense, and I've talked about this prior to camp, that defense would be something I would be keeping my eye on. The one thing historically that we've seen over the past decade with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is the inconsistency of the defense. Now, the defense has been primarily, or I guess basically 4-3 all the way up to this season. So just with this change, it's a huge change for this team, totally different defense. And we'll kind of see how players are adjusting. But I'll get to those questions in a moment. With the new regime, as you mentioned, what about the coach? How are the players on offense adjusting to a brand new scheme? How are they fitting this in?
Right. Well, I mean, I really think that they're starting to, having been at two of the earlier training camps and then just went yesterday. I was able to see kind of the progression in terms of how they were doing, from earlier on in camp to how they're doing more recently. And they do definitely seem like they're getting more comfortable with the, with learning the playbook and learning the scheme and things along those lines. I mean, from the quarterback down, offensively, they really seem to be gelling, which obviously is really important. I mean, we have, Winston and Mike Evans who, have been a duo in the league for a while. And So obviously, there's some of the new players, that Winston still has to get comfortable with, Scotty Miller and things when he comes back from injury. And but they really definitely seem to be kind of forming a very good relationship, which I think is really important, in terms of the flow of the game, because I feel like if you can do well together in practice, then it really, even though practice is just practice, it definitely plays a big role in terms of, how they end up playing once it comes time, for real action.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the one thing I want to touch on. I want to kind of piggyback off what you're talking about there. When you develop these habits, these behaviors in preseason, in camp, that can translate over into the regular season when you really need to be mentally tough and ready to go and play those games in the middle of the season. Mm-hmm. And I would say over the past couple of seasons, that's been kind of a struggle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because you've got players who've just not shown up in the middle of the season, and you've just seen a team that just goes flat and they go on losing streaks. And if you're trying to fight for the playoffs, it shouldn't matter who it is. You should be able to come in there and execute and play your game. But we've seen a lot of problems with fundamentals, and I won't touch too much on that right now because we're talking about the offense. Mm-hmm. But I just kind of want to jump back to the offense. But the running game, I know we've talked. I think we talked offline a little bit about it. How is the running game looking? From what you've seen.
Yeah. The running game is looking incredible. I mean, right now it seems like they're in an excellent position where they have a lot of talent, but they only have so many roster spots.
I know.
And so obviously, I don't think that Ronald Jones is gonna. I don't think by any stretch of the means that he's going to supplant Peyton Barber, but he certainly is playing like he could.
Yeah, and he's getting more reps.
Yeah, he's getting more reps, and he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. You know what I mean? His rookie year wasn't what he thought it was going to be. Wasn't what anybody thought it was going to be. And he's really starting to show that he has an excellent ability to be a ball catcher. And he's really good. With moving down the field with speed and kind of getting out of blocks and juking away from players, and it's a lot of fun to see.
So and that's been something that was always the knock on him when he was drafted was can he catch the ball, because in this new NFL that's going to be important if you're going to be a successful running back, is being able to catch the ball. Mm-hmm. And having that speed in space, you know what I mean? So that's just been the NFL, and that's kind of hopefully what we will the product we'll get from him. And mm-hmm. again, it kind of goes back to, was his rookie season a product of bad coaching, or was it the offensive line, or just what was it? So I think a lot of fans want answers to these questions, and once we get into the season, once we get that preseason game in there, once we get to see live bullets flying, and even it may be a vanilla offense, but just getting to see him on the field and see what he can do, I think is going to answer a lot of questions right now.
Yeah. Like you said, we don't know. We don't know if Ronald Jones didn't play up to his potential last year because of coaching, or because of players, or what. But I mean, we'll definitely get a better idea of what that was once the season gets rolling.
Yeah, most definitely. Mm-hmm. And what I'll do, I'm gonna hit up the chat and see if we can get some questions for you. Sure. And and I know that you're interested in fantasy football, and you have a podcast that you have coming up with related to fantasy football. If you want to.
Sure. Yeah. Myself and Erin Campbell. She's a dear friend of mine out of Columbus, Ohio. She is a professional broadcaster, and we are going to be doing a fantasy football podcast called What the Football. It's going to be live on Saturdays at 11 o'clock. And I believe it's going to start maybe on the 31st. We're still trying to figure that out, but it's going to be a lot of fun, because she and I, I've been playing for nearly 20 years. And I want to say Erin has probably been playing for about the same time. So I want to say we're going to have nearly combined 40 years of fantasy football experience to share with with the viewers of our podcast. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's something that I'm looking forward to see, how this goes. I haven't played for a couple of years, but I will definitely be keeping an eye on this here.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Definitely.
Yeah, and I have some people out here and they're asking about Vita Vea. I know that they had the one MRI, but they're going to have another MRI on Friday. So no real status on that right there. Matthew Kitchell's asking about Janelle Dean. I don't think he's going to be playing on Friday, so I think he'll be kept out, and we'll have to wait and see where his status is as we go along. One of the questions, and since we're talking about offense, this is a good question. Sin A was asking, how's the development of Kappa and Bailey coming along?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you mentioned Zach Bailey because he's sort of seen movement on the roster. I mean, the first roster came out last night, and obviously due to the injury of one of their guards, he's out for the season. So Zach Bailey may be elevated from third string to second string, which could be pretty amazing for a rookie guard. But he's got a lot of versatility, and I think he could really add a lot, in terms of the offense. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he does.
Yeah, that should be really interesting right there. So you're familiar a little. You're pretty familiar. I mean, the Bucs are familiar after last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know this is preseason and it doesn't really count. Do you think this will be a good test, a good starting test for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go out and play a team like a Pittsburgh Steelers that's been well coached over the years, and they've done pretty decent, and they've maintained a pretty decent record. Do you think that this will be a good like, not, I wouldn't say measuring stick again because it doesn't count, and these will be vanilla plays, but just to go up against a team of that caliber?
Yeah, I think the first thing that maybe we don't think about as much is the fact that they're going to be on the road, playing in Pittsburgh, and unfortunately they're going to be on the road a lot this season, And I know from Tampa to Pittsburgh, it's not like you're going cross country or internationally like they will be going, but I think playing on the road, even if it's preseason, it still gives them a really good gauge in terms of timing of everything, and I think mentally and physically, it does drain players when they have to travel, even if it's
absolutely
far, so, but yeah, in terms of the matchup, it's a really great team to play, and like you said, it's only preseason, but it's a broken record. It's only preseason, but there's still a lot of aspects there in terms of the travel and in terms of playing in enemy territory, in terms of
and that's a hostile stadium. Have you ever been to that stadium?
Yeah, I have. It's pretty loud. I mean, it's obviously not Seattle loud or anything, but
they're cheaters.
I'm sure there's going to be some Bucs fans there representing.
Oh, yeah.
But it's enemy territory, so it's going to be rough. But hopefully, hopefully the Bucs will win.
Yeah, I think to me it's more getting to see what players are able to do. You put somebody in a vanilla offense, you have to run this play. How do you look running this play? How efficient are you running this play? And I think that's more or less what I'm actually looking for. I'm not like you. I don't have a dog in the race. Pittsburgh, it's not like it's the Atlanta Falcons or the Dallas Cowboys and two of the teams. And if you've been following me for a long time, those are the two teams that I hate more than anything. So when I say, if I compare a team to Dallas, I really don't like them. So there's just
right.
That.
Yeah. So it's all about play execution, even if it's dumbed down, even if it's just preseason execution, you know what I mean? It's a really good test, especially for, because a lot of these, they're really starting to look at who's going to make the roster.
Right.
And if the second and third strings who are going to be seeing the majority of the action, if they can't execute, they're on the bubble, they're on the fringe, they may not see the field after the cut. So
That's the thing that I love about Bruce Arians is, and I don't know if you've seen this in camp, but you have a lot more people working out. You have a lot more people showing what they can do than you would at a normal camp. I don't know if you can, if that is something that would you agree with that?
yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah.
So, it's interesting because you always see that player with his helmet on his hip and he's watching the plays go by, but you're getting to see a lot more players that you normally wouldn't get to see, and they're getting reps. And you may see a guy out here and you're like, wait a minute, we didn't really give him a good look. Let's look at him again, and we'll see if he's somebody that makes a team. There are going to be some surprises with people that get cut. And I really can hope that Bucs fans aren't upset with some of the moves that are made, but I can promise you that there are going to be players that will be cut that you just didn't see coming. So, because there will be some, there are some players that are playing for their lives, basically, to stay in Tampa or stay playing. I kind of want to jump over, and I know we talked a little bit about the running back, Peyton Barber. Barber looks good. Anderson, how have you gotten to see much from him?
Yeah, he's had some fumbling issues, so I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think I told you that I have a bold prediction. I don't know that he's going to make the team, because they only have so many running back spots, and I don't see them keeping Bruce Anderson, and I sort of see, I mean, obviously it's just the first roster of the first exhibition game, but Andre Ellington is listed as a third string running back rather.
Yeah.
I sort of feel like Dare, I can't pronounce his last name, and I don't know that
Agumbawale.
Agumbawale. That's kind of fun. Okay. Dare Agumbawale. I actually see him, I see Andre Ellington. I see him. I see Peyton Barber, Rojo, and Andre Ellington being the three running backs for the season. So, but obviously they'll keep Dare. They got a 4th spot, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I see Andre. I think he's gonna play a pretty big role this season, I think.
So, and I know this is camp again, and I have to preface this because people will always say, "Oh, well, this is just camp." And you can't really read a whole lot into it. But I do, we're talking about the players right now. So I will ask this question, when you've looked at him and you've compared him to the other running backs that you've gotten to watch, do you see him getting more reps? Did he get more reps, or were the reps evenly spread out, or was it somewhere that he made plays that the other players didn't make, or what did you see from him, Ellington?
Yeah, I think it was pretty evenly spread out between the 3 running backs or the 4 running backs. Bruce Anderson, I don't think I saw him very much yesterday, but I really think that, I mean, they are practicing their pass catching abilities, with the running backs, and I see Andre Ellington getting a lot of catches out of the backfield. So, and that's kind of like his forte, you know what I mean? So, maybe if Rojo has issues with that this season, you know what I mean? Like maybe they'll end up, mixing a lot of Andre in there with Peyton Barber. I mean, who knows? It's hard to tell, but they definitely are working a lot in the pass catching drills with Andre Ellington and Rojo. So I think that they really expect a lot out of those 2 running backs this year in terms of, not just for their running ability, but for their pass catching abilities as well.
And if you have a good running game, it's going to definitely open up the passing game. We've seen that. And when you have weapons like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and I know you've gotten your first look at Chris Godwin. I don't know. Well, are you a college football person?
No.
Okay. So then
I am when it comes to the combine. Obviously, it's the NFL combine. But no, I don't really follow college at all.
Okay, I was going to ask because he was at Penn State, so I was going to see if you were following college, you would probably know about him. But is this your first look? Is this your first real look at him this year?
Yeah. You know what? He looks solid, man. I mean, he's really got great feet, which is really helpful in terms of running routes, and he really seems to be catching on fairly quickly. You know what I mean? And so I think that's really important for rookies to be able to do that. So it's good.
Yeah, in being a second year player coming in
Right.
and being able to just catch on to everything with a new, you've got a totally new system now.
Right.
He had a few drops last year, and that's something that I wanted to ask you as well. Is that something he's kind of cleaned up? Has he pretty much caught everything thrown his way, or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's had, kind of everybody. I'll be honest with you. Everybody's kind of, Mike Evans has had some drops. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you watch, but it's hard to tell, what's going to translate into the regular season or not. But Godwin definitely seems to be, focusing more on catching and having his hands in the proper location to catch the ball.
Perfect.
And it sounds really simple, but it's just a mental thing that once you're actually in the middle of a game, it's totally different than practice, obviously.
Yeah.
So, hopefully what he learns in terms of, focusing on the ball and where his hands are and where the ball is and where it's coming from and, directionally, things like that. And he's been doing a good job in terms, because sometimes Winston, it's hot.
Yeah.
And the players are tired. And although, suck it up, Buttercup, you're going to have to play like that in the regular season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's been focusing on, if the ball's short, he's been focusing on getting, extending his arms and wherever he needs to go, whether it's low or high or in the middle. And I think he's really adjusting well.
Yeah, that Bucs fan 727 mentioned proper technique.
Exactly.
So that's gonna be key right there. Mm-hmm. So you've got Mike Evans, you've got OJ Howard. Have you gotten to see much from Cameron Brate?
Yeah. He's been he looks pretty solid this year as well, which is really nice. I think. Was he injured some last
year? He was injured last year, right. It really hurt his productivity. Mm-hmm. I know he just got cleared here not too long ago, and is he looking like he's getting in? Because there's getting in shape, staying in shape, and then there's football shape.
Yeah,
and just him being out there getting reps. Is he in that football shape?
Yeah. I mean, he was out for a little bit of camp too, and so but once he returned, all eyes were kind of on him, and he seemed to be getting more reps than maybe OJ Howard was to start because they were trying to just slowly bring him back in,
right?
Like you said, to football shape. So I think I really believe that he and Howard. I think it's really important to have two tight end sets.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to be able to pull it off this year with OJ Howard and Cameron Brate.
That's a defensive coordinator nightmare when you're trying to defend against two guys like that. And OJ Howard is a physical freak. I mean, just the speed that he has. His hands are nice, and he's a physical blocker. Mm-hmm. And if we could just stay healthy throughout the season and finish up the season strong, I think that he's definitely going to be of big benefit to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he's one of those guys that I've got my eye on him too to to do big things. I was real excited about him getting picked up in the draft because here's a guy who was projected as number 8, between number 8 and number 12 to be drafted, and he dropped down to the Bucs where they were able to get him. And, there were a lot of fans that weren't happy with the move, but just from what you're seeing now, you have to appreciate having a tight end like him who's really, he hasn't even hit his floor. I mean, it hadn't even hit his ceiling. So here's a guy that's, continuously getting better, and that's kind of exciting to see. So he's one of those guys that I'm looking forward to. Right. So
me too.
I do want to jump over to the defensive side of the ball, and I'll get to special teams next.
Okay.
Noah Spence. Have you gotten to watch Noah Spence play much?
I actually haven't. Haven't seen him a lot.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say he. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Because camp is so big. There's so much that only so much that you can cover. Mm-hmm. And I know for you that when you're writing for specific things. This is what we want you to cover, and this is what we want you to write about. So I totally understand that.
Yeah. But I mean, I also mean when I say I don't know, I think it's possible, that he's got to really step it up at camp.
Yeah.
When I say I haven't seen him, I mean I haven't I haven't watched a lot of him, but I also, when I am watching those particular drills, I'm not. It doesn't seem like he's really standing out. He's standing out at all, in
Who
camp.
would you, and while we're on that subject, who's standing out to you? Who's caught your eye when you're looking at those drills?
Yeah, yeah. Well, Dayon Buchanan, I think is really
Yeah,
man. When he got the call, I think obviously it's a huge loss. You know what I mean for somebody like Levante David's productivity and just his
yes,
presence and his veteran, his
the
overall
leadership.
veteran. Yeah, exactly. His veteran leadership. It's pretty amazing, and it's like I said, it's a huge loss, but it's next man up, as we always say, and
Yeah,
I think Buchanan is really stepping up, and he's really kind of showing that when Arians plucked him, out of
yeah,
Arizona, I'm sure, he that brought a level of confidence to his play. You know what I mean? I mean, he was in Arizona for quite some time,
yeah, yeah,
as well as Minter. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Kevin Minter. So they're both familiar with Bruce Arians and with Todd Bowles. So I think
yeah.
that's definitely going to help. You
And
know,
I do want to bring that up. I'm glad you brought up Mentor's name. Have you gotten to watch him at all?
yeah, yeah. They've it's been a little bit of he and Buchanan have been kind of getting equal reps, because they're both going to play, either way. But obviously Buchanan's going to be in David's spot at least, for the
Yeah,
foreseeable future. So
yeah. And thank goodness the injury is not. I mean, it's a bad injury, but it's not as
yeah,
bad as what it could have been. So
right, yeah, yeah. And I sort of feel like, the timing of the surgery says a lot, because I feel like they realize, obviously we were told, there was a smoke screen by Arians that it was, nothing. And then, it was just sore. And now, it was torn. But I sort of feel like the timing of the surgery is going to put him in position to where, maybe he'll miss the 49ers game. And if anything, it'll be just a precautionary measure because obviously we want to have Levante David in there for the whole season. You know what I mean?
right,
If he's in
yeah,
there for the first game, woohoo! And something happens, that would be awful. So I think that they're
yeah,
gonna really be cautious with
yeah,
David's return, and they just know that they have enough talent there and enough
yeah.
depth to get the job done while he's gone.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the one thing that I will say is that you know bring him back slowly. Don't bring him back to where he could get re-injured and you
Right.
lose him for a longer period of time. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important to let him heal and make sure that he's all right and he's not coming back too soon where he can get injured again. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, in the question, there's a question out here in the chat that was a real good question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you bring Levante David back in a short week through like game? Because they play. I think it goes the 49ers and they play the Panthers next on
Right.
it, and I believe that's going to that would be the next game that you would see. So
Right.
I would, if this is me and it's early on in the season, I'm not in a hurry to rush him back. I want to make sure that he's 100% because that long stretch of away games that the Bucs are going to have, you want everybody as healthy as possible because that's going to be a monster stretch right there. And I know a lot of people aren't making a big deal out of it, but when you're away from home and you're not defending your home stadium and you're traveling from here from the West Coast to the East Coast to over to England, and then you're basically all over. It kind of wears on you. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, that's an excellent point by the person who posed that
oh, that
question.
all
I
hands
mean,
galley.
all hands galley, what's up, dude? That was an excellent question because yeah, I mean, if for whatever reason they're not going to play Levante David in the first week, yeah, I mean,
You have to sit him. You have to bring him along slowly.
right,
I would rather have a healthy Levante David towards the middle or back into the season
mhm,
more than anything. And
right,
that's kind of I don't know. I would want that with any of the players, to be very honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Bucks fan 727 is saying traveling, you have jet lag and you're missing home and
Mm-hmm.
you're outside of your comfort zone where you're in enemy territory 6 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So that alone can just mentally wear on you. And
Right.
would I would be happy if the Bucks won 3 of those games.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, I agree.
yeah,
I agree. Yeah, it's going to be tough,
yeah,
going out to England and playing out there and it being, an away game and obviously, it's technically a home game for Carolina, isn't it?
no, it's a home game for the Bucks
Oh, it's a home
allegedly.
game for the Bucs. Okay, thanks.
Allegedly, yeah.
So, but again, it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter because
That's
it's
a slap in the. That is the biggest slap in the face to
yeah,
season ticket holders and everybody else. Oh,
right.
this is your home game right here. You know
Mm,
what? But don't get me started on that because I
right,
could go on
right.
and on. I know that for me going to England, it took me about. I would say it took me about 3 days to get adjusted
Mm-hmm.
and just get where my eating habits were in sync with everything else. And I wasn't sleepy and I wasn't up at 3 o'clock in the morning for no apparent reason. So it's going to be interesting, when you're playing a physical sport like football and
Mm-hmm.
you're going across the pond. You've got
Mm-hmm.
all these different time zone changes. I mean, you're like, I think it's what I think it's like 9 hours difference, I
Right.
believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like 9 hours difference or something like that. That alone would just it throws you off. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to have that mentality that you're going to overcome this and go out there and play. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I would imagine too. I don't recall if the Cardinals ever went out to England while Arians was there. I know Pittsburgh never did, but I would imagine that he's going to have a pretty solid game plan in
yeah,
terms of not even the game, but I just
Mhm.
mean getting to London early enough, to
Getting
get
your
that.
body adjusted.
You know what I mean? And I think it sounds simple, but that's gonna be huge in terms of how they perform on the field that day. So
Yeah, that's going to be real big. So those are games that you're looking forward to. So I do want to ask you, as you're looking at the schedule, and I'll get back to I'll get back to camp here in a minute.
yeah.
But as you're looking at the schedule, are there any
Mhm.
games that stand out to you like, man, I cannot wait to see this game?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously any in division games, you know what I mean? That those
Yeah.
are givens. But I mean, obviously the games against Carolina, not even just the one in London, but because McCoy,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? We want to see
There's your storyline right there.
killed, But yeah, I mean, it's such a great division. It's such a solid division from top to
Yeah.
bottom, and it's like, it sort of reminds me. I even sort of feel like it's more competitive than the AFC North is because even the AFC North has the Bengals and they're just horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, so I feel like the Bucks, are right kind of there. They can be. I feel like they can. You're gonna hate this, but I feel like they do have. I feel like they can. They have the ability and the potential to be just as good as Atlanta this year. I'm not gonna say that they're gonna be as good as the Saints. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that those games are gonna be. They are gonna be bloodbaths for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and all I can ask for is that this team is that the defense isn't a liability. The offense goes out and does what they need to do, and everybody's basically playing 4 quarters of football, both sides of the ball. That's what you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go over the last decade, we haven't consistently seen 4 quarters of football from both sides of the ball. We just haven't seen it. Either you'll have the offense show up, offense does good, and the defense can't hold the lead in the fourth quarter,
Mm-hmm.
or the team just gets totally blown out and both sides aren't doing well, and there's this huge blowout. Or you
Mm-hmm.
have the offense or the defense goes out, the defense does what they're supposed to do, and the offense doesn't show up. So
Mm-hmm.
over the years, if you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we're going back over a decade, you've consistently seen this. I
Right.
mean, I remember a game being at a Bucs game. I think it was the 10th anniversary of the Super Bowl 2012, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. I was at the game versus the Eagles, and Tampa had gone down and gotten a lead, and the defense gave up the lead within like 2 minutes. and the Eagles ended up winning that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I was physically sick because the defense couldn't stop anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm talking about when I say, the defense being able to go out and play, get some stops, and do what they need to do. That's what I'm hoping for this season, is that we see a more consistent defense, a defense that's fundamentally sound, being able to make tackles, being able to make stops, playing in your assignment, not worried about what your teammate is doing, but being able to go out there and execute. That's going to be huge. And I think if the Bucs can get out there and make tackles, because I've watched a lot of game film, all 22 from last season, and the one thing that really stuck out to me were a lot of missed tackles, especially with runs. The Bucs were gouged horribly last year on just big runs by running backs that they should have stopped in the backfield, and it's frustrating to watch these games and see that, and you really hope that that's something that they can kind of clear up.
Yeah, you got to finish your tackles. You know what I mean? If they just can't wrap up the running back, it's like that. There's a lot of teams that are not. Maybe they're more solid against the pass than they are against the run, but you really got to be a contender in this league. You have to be pretty balanced in terms of your defensive play. So, hopefully they can turn that around this year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I'm really hoping for. But again, I have to take a step back. I'm gonna have to stop being the Homer fan that I am, really I want this team to be perfect. And look, and this is a brand new coach, brand new regime, defensive, offensive coordinators, new coaches. It's going to take a little bit. It's not going to happen overnight that this team, if it does, I'm good with that. But I have to keep telling myself, you know what? There are going to be setbacks, and they're going to have to overcome setbacks to win games and be successful. So I just kind of have to keep reminding myself, you know what?
Right.
The Bucs are basically a new team. There are a lot of players that have been given do-overs. So let's see what they do with this new opportunity.
Right. I agree. And it's funny because, going back to the schedule, I'm looking at the Arizona Cardinals game. Bruce Arians kind of, it's been a couple years, obviously, since he's been there, but and Todd Bowles, too. That's going to be an interesting game just to kind of see how that plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the 49ers game. I mean, if you're looking for storylines, as a journalist, if you're looking for storylines, Quan Alexander, who he could have stayed in Tampa, but he ended up taking big money going to San Francisco. He's coming off of an injury. These injuries aren't as catastrophic as they used to be. Medicine technology's gotten so much better that people can recover faster and be back on the field quicker. So it will be really interesting to see Quan Alexander versus his old team, how that all plays out. The Tennessee Titans, you've got Adam Humphries, who ended up going to the Tennessee Titans and signing for big money, second number 2 receiver money, basically, to go to the Tennessee Titans. And we'll get a chance to see how that particular scenario plays out. And then, as you mentioned, the Gerald McCoy scenario, where Gerald McCoy is in Carolina and he's playing against his old team twice a year. So there's that. And then you've got Ndamukong Suh, who was a former Ram, and the Bucs are facing the Rams this year. So
week 4.
So you've got a lot of different scenarios here, and it'll be really interesting to see how they all play out. So I'm really excited for that as well.
It's going to be a great season for sure.
All right. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go through the chat here. I've been trying to get some of the good chats up here. The schedule is Wes O'Connor. I just decided to post this one here. Wes O'Connor says the schedule is brutal. If we can get through the first half with a decent record, we could really make a push for the playoffs in the second half. You know what? That's gonna be something to watch. And I think that the Bucs can do it. It's about mentality. It's about going out there and finishing games. That's going to be huge for the Bucs, and I know I've mentioned that. It sounds like a broken record, but that's what it's going to take.
Yeah. I'm looking at the first 6 weeks before the bye, and it's rough. It's rough. I mean, I as an outsider looking in, I see maybe 2 wins out of 6. The first 6 weeks. I think they can beat the 49ers. I really do. I think that they can beat the 49ers. I mean, they're at home. They're going to be amped up. There's going to be, like you said, the Quan Alexander factor.
Yeah.
But and they might be able to beat the Giants, depending on which Giants show up or whatever. But
so who are their wide receivers now? Everybody's hurt.
Yeah, OBJ's not there anymore, so
yeah, I'm not even sure who they're. I'm not even sure who's on their wide receiver core anymore.
Yeah, I don't even know.
So that when we get closer to that game, I'll definitely do my homework and be ready for it.
We'll know everything by then.
Yeah, I want to get back to camp. Sure. Somebody at Tampa Bay was asking, "Do you believe that Vernon Hargreaves is a bust? How has he played in camp, or have you gotten a chance to see him?" And I know you kind of.
I haven't gotten a chance to see him a lot, but when I have been seeing him, he's on the sideline, and he looks a little frustrated, a little deflated maybe, but again, it could just be one of those things where they're learning a new scheme, and maybe he's just not catching on.
And that you're definitely right. That could be what it is. So we just kind of have to be patient with him. He wasn't, and let me start by saying this. Vernon Hargreaves wasn't my first choice as a cornerback, but I like Vernon Hargreaves. He's a Tampa product, went to Plant High School. Just getting, just that right there makes me root for him, is the fact that he is a true Tampa product, and I want him to do good. And, I think that this system is going to be something that plays to some of his strengths, and we'll just kind of have to wait and see what he does when live bullets are flying, when the games really matter. That's where we're really going to know what Vernon Hargreaves is really doing. Let's see, Bucs fan 727 said he's been the most consistent DB in camp, most of camp. So again, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I'm gonna leave that there. Basically, I'm on board. I want to see Vernon Hargreaves succeed. He's one of those guys that I'm glad he's here. So I'm glad he's here. And let's just hope.
I mean, there's definitely been there's been Winston's
But what I do want to say, too, is I know that you haven't been following the cornerbacks as much because of your assignments and what they've had you doing. So I didn't mean to put you on. I do apologize. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Carlton Davis and Vernon Hargreaves, there's been a lot of interceptions. Well, a handful of interceptions, thrown by all the quarterbacks. But when you're defending, and, I hate to use this training camp again, but when you're throwing passes against your own team, it's a little different. Yeah. You know what I mean? But and Winston has been getting better. So there has been some picks, There have been some days where the defense has won camp, and there's been some days where the offense has won camp. And it's to the best of my knowledge, offense seems to be winning more camps so far. So in that, that's definitely not a bad thing.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is the offense has never been, as far in my mind, the offense has never been there's not been any question in my mind about the offense. I understand they lost to Deshaun Jackson. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm not going to say a whole lot about that because, but Deshaun Jackson's gone. But this gives you a chance for guys like Chris Godwin to step up, guys like Bobo Wilson, guys like Scotty Miller to come out there. I know that Scotty Miller has a hamstring injury, and that's something that you have to take that seriously because that can bother you throughout the season. I know with there have been players that we've had in the past that have had hamstring injuries that just nagged them throughout the season, and they never got up to 100%. So that's something that you really have to take seriously. Is those types of injuries?
Right.
So, with that being said, this offense was amazing last year. They I just question the coaching, and we'll know for sure. We'll have a better idea this year if it was coaching or if it was just personnel that led to this team not being kind of underachieving towards the middle and back end of the season.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really awesome to see a full season of Winston.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. I got wood right here, knocking on it. But I really think, he's a pretty durable guy. The last time he got injured was
he got injured in the Cardinals game year before last.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he missed
So,
what, like,
yeah, it was
it,
like an AC joint or something, right?
yeah,
But yeah, so hopefully, he's a very durable kind of guy. He seems like he can play through a lot of pain, which a lot of quarterbacks have to do. But I think it's
Eh,
going to be great seeing him, with a full season under a new offense, and seeing how he can pull that off.
yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about the defensive side of the ball, because I know
Yeah.
I have me, I just kind of segue on other stuff,
Right.
but I want to get back on track here. The
Mm-hmm.
defensive line, Ndamukong Suh, Will Golston,
Mm-hmm.
before he got injured, Vita Vea. What do you think of that line so far? What have you seen from them? Have they shown to be disruptive? I mean, how are you seeing the line?
Yeah, yeah. You know what? They all seem like they're really banding together. You know what I mean? To form like a really tight core, and I just feel like they're really starting to kind of get a good feel of how Bowles expects them to perform. And how they really need to fall in line and really start to because as you said, they weren't great against the run last year, and I feel like I think that that's a big focus. It seems to be a lot of what they're focusing on in training camp is
Yeah.
stopping the run, and I think that's going to be a huge part. And if that can come together, I think that defense against the run is going to be pretty solid this year.
That is going to be huge, because
Mhm.
again, I watched a lot of games over the off season, and the one thing that I know that really hurt the Bucs, and it really shouldn't have, were these chunk plays, these chunk runs that you saw, and
Mhm.
that just opened up the passing game, and the Bucs just were always on their heels, it seemed like. So
Mhm.
you're absolutely right. If you can stop the run, you
Mhm.
make a team more one dimensional, and then getting pressure on the quarterback is going to be huge as well. So I
Mhm.
know Todd Bowles is a lot more aggressive, and
Mhm.
I think that's what the fan base has needed this for a long time, is a
Mhm.
coach who wants to go hunt the quarterback, who wants to go get after it, jumping routes, and just being a lot more aggressive rather than being reactionary or passive and playing off the ball to see what your offense is going to do, because that
Mhm.
unless you have the right pieces in place, that can sometimes put you at a disadvantage. So
Mhm.
to me, I think that's going to be very important to kind of keep your eye on as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think going back to stopping the run, oftentimes, depending on what quarter of the game and how the score is going,
Yeah,
if Tampa Bay, if they can come out guns a blazing and score some touchdowns, I think that they'll teams aren't going to be able to run, or aren't not that they won't be able to run. I just think that they're going to have to pass a lot.
yeah, it makes them one dimensional. You're exactly right.
So hopefully the Bucs can put their opposing teams in that situation and not have to worry as much about stopping the
Yeah,
run.
there you
A
go.
little bit hopeful, but that'd be nice.
There you go. Hey,
Hmm.
next question I have for you was about the linebacker core. I know that we kind of touched on them a little bit.
Hmm.
With the injury to Levante David,
Hmm.
you still got some quality pieces back there that can be difference makers. How do you look at that linebacker core? Do you see that as one of the strengths for this team, or when you look at the overall defense, what do you see as one of the strengths so far? I mean, as you're looking at camp.
Yeah, I feel like learning the new defense, and like you said, it's really aggressive, and maybe it's something that the veteran Buccaneer players aren't used to. But I think the new guys coming in, um,
Buying
it
into it.
that might be a little bit of an advantage to them, and in the sense that they don't have to they might be a little bit more comfortable in what in the
Yeah,
aggression that Bowles is throwing out there, but yeah, I mean everybody looks sorry I can't be more specific, but it just seems that especially when a key player goes down, I sort of feel like everybody, not just the particular position that Levante David plays, but I just feel like everybody sort of steps up their game and really kind of
you
kind
kind
of
of you kind of have to you kind of have to when you have a player of a Levante David status, you really have to kind of up your game and
hmm
just kind of make sure that you're playing in your assignment. You don't make the situation worse, so to speak, but do what you've been assigned to do and just play consistently. So definitely something else. Again, this defense is what I'm really excited to see. I'm really interested to see the defense. I have a good idea of what I'm going to get from the offense. I know a lot of people are concerned about the offensive line, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see what the head coach has planned for us. What Byron Leftwich has planned as far as that goes.
hmm
Yeah,
I
and there we go. Do your job and communicate. Bucs fan 727. There you go. You're
yeah.
exactly right. This guy is on it, man. And, hey, want to take a moment, Bucs fan 727. I do apologize. Yes, last night I just thought it would be better if we did the show tonight. We were supposed to do it last night. I know you were tired. You've been
Yeah,
at
it was
camp
a long
all
day.
day, and that sun will drain you. I've
hmm
been at camp before. I played hooky from work and gone to camp, so I
hmm
I remember those days. So
Yeah.
I do know that does wear on you, but I do apologize. Try to be a little bit better about communicating that kind of stuff, and I do apologize. But getting back to this, overall, I mean, if you're just looking at this team, who stood out to you? Who's that one player for you that you've come in, you don't have any expectations, and you see that one player, and he flashes off the page for you.
Yeah, yeah. I'd have to say Mike Edwards. He's really having a really strong camp, and I think he's really showing that he, he needs to be the top safety on this team, and his buddy Jordan Whitehead too.
Yeah.
They're both playing lights out in training camp, which is really good to see because they seem to be getting their hands where they need to get their hands, and they're
How are they looking in coverage?
yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? It's pretty impressive because they've been able to defend their territory. You know what I mean? Like I said,
Yeah.
sometimes the defense wins, sometimes the offense wins, but they've been I feel like their technique and their mechanics, they're really coming together, and they're really going to be really solid in their play.
There you go. That's something to be excited about right
Yeah,
there.
oh, definitely. No
Yeah.
doubt.
And I cannot believe it. We've almost been doing this for an hour already.
Woo!
Yeah, you're fun to talk to. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, pretty much. I am Alison Koehler on Facebook, Koehler. I do have just an individual personal account. I've gotten since I've joined Bucs Report, I've gotten a lot of Facebook requests, friend requests where I'm like, who's this person? And then I look at our mutual friends, and it's all Bucs Nation. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, well that's where they know me from. So yeah, you can definitely follow me on Bucs Report. I've published a couple articles, every day that I'm at training camp, and I'm getting ready. I'm going to be doing a recap of the Steelers Bucs game. It'll be posted Friday night after the game, and a whole lot on there. I mean, I have a personal.
For me, for Allison, she will have a podcast coming out pretty soon for the for all right.
What the
Well,
football? Me on Eugene.